Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Generation Prodigy's Teen Talk Live. We are so excited, and of course, we have our awesome host on tonight. So grab your friends, tell someone, just go ahead and share, and let everybody in. Get all your teenagers around you and let them join in on the conversation on tonight. Get your questions ready as well. So tonight, without further ado, I would like to introduce our host on tonight, and that's none other than Jared Day. Hey, Jared Day.
Evening. Hi. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Teen Talk with Generation Prodigy. My name is Jared Day, and I will be your host on for tonight. Our guest for tonight is Jade Thompson. She will launch our discussion on It's Not What You Think. So let's get started. Jade Thompson recently graduated from Barn, Barnard College of Columbia University with a double major in economics and sustainable development. In a few short weeks, Jade will begin her career at Snapchat Camera Company. On her free time, Jade loves to design clothing, sing, dance, and my personal favorite, travel. Let's all send hearts emojis for Jade.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for the intro, Jared.
So, give us a little more information about, your majors or your new career that you're planning on doing.
So I just graduated in April, and I double majored in economics, which has to do with finance and money and how money is distributed, and sustainable development, which has to do with green energy, solar panels, different things like that to help the environment. But I got the opportunity to intern with Snapchat, which I know many teens use Snapchat. So I got to intern with them this past summer, dealing with lenses and filters and advertising. And then I got a return offer. So I'll be working there full time, like in a few weeks, and I'm really excited about it.
So when you was younger, did you always want to be who you are now, or did you ever think about what you wanted to do? Like what was your goal when you was a kid? Like was you planning on being a Snapchat camera person? Like was that your goal?
No, well, first Snapchat didn't start yet, so I didn't even know it was a possibility. But when I was young, I actually wanted to be a plumber, electrician, mechanic, handy woman all together, like just doing everything. So I'm like, yeah, I don't need men. Like I'll just do everything by myself. Like that was my mindset.
That's wonderful. A very independent kind of lady. So, do you have anything that you would like to say for us teens, or like anything to support us with like some people that's struggling with their goals or anything?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is recognizing who you are and actually what you want. I think coming into college, I was very concerned with what other people were doing. Like, oh, this person's gonna, I don't know, be a lawyer, or this person's gonna be a doctor. Like, what should I do? And like comparing myself to other people. And I think that is the biggest thing that you guys should not do, because I think it just steals your joy and your own understanding of who you are individually, like what your passions actually are, what you care about in this world, and going after that, and not trying to be what other people are and follow their path instead of your own. So that's my biggest advice, is like sitting down and asking yourself, like, what do you actually care about, and that will really help.
That sounds great. That helped me. What is something? Let's see. How do I say this? something you struggle with in college that can help us? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll think. Okay. Sort of two things come to mind. The
So,
first, the first thing I'd say is friendship. I really struggled with in college because I came from I came from a low income minority school where we all had to go to the same classes. Like it wasn't the kind of school where you get to choose like chemistry or history and like another student is in, I don't know, like gym at a different time. Like we all went to the same classes at the same time. So I had all the same friends just because I was traveling with them. So you naturally talk to the people that you're around. But then going into college, I was like, I want real friends who I get to choose, sort of. And I was having this idea of like this perfect friendship. And I think I was, um, as I said, expecting people to be perfect. And that's not what's going to happen. Like everyone has their flaws, everyone has their history, everyone has their own personality that blends really well with other people. So I'd say that's what I struggled with in college, is like recognizing the value of people around me, and then sort of like that vulnerability of like sharing who I am with those people as well, and being my true self around them. So that's what I struggled with. But I think just taking that chance to be open and like share love with other people, um, no matter what you think would happen, like trust issues or anything like that, just being open and seeking, like looking to value people for who they are and show your true self is what I would recommend for life in general, college, after college, just like forever.
yeah. I have one more question. My question is, what made you um major in economics and sustainable development?
Yeah. Um, so because sustainable development has to do with caring for the planet, I noticed that a lot of a lot of big companies don't care for the planet because they care more about making money, right? It's like, okay, let's cut all these trees down so that we can make this like fancy bed frame, or I don't know, like just like using resources, polluting, a lot of pollution. And I was wondering, like, with sustainable development, how can economics like merge together so that I look at economics and how sustainable development um, can actually be used to make businesses money, right? So they don't have to like kill the environment to make money, but they can help the environment to further their own goals. So I think that's why I majored in both of them, but specifically majoring in sustainable development, I did because I care about the planet. This is where we live, and it's like I think God gave us this whole world as a blessing to us, and it's our job to take care of it and make sure that we're not um, abusing the place that we live, but that it's here for future generations as well.
Sorry, I was struggling. Thank you. That helped a lot, and that gave me a lot of information.
Sure, great.
That's awesome. Good job, Jerry.
Good job, Meredith.
I
Thank
know.
you.
So we're dealing with the Snapchat generation, right? So of course, we're also dealing with. So there's this story of I was listening to some adults talking about teenagers, and one of the teens, of course, is in a private school, and the parents were just giving such accolades and just sharing how much the child enjoyed the school and everything was fine. You would think it was a perfect situation, but somebody noticed the facial expression on their child's face and went to the teen and asked him his opinion and thoughts, and it was totally the opposite of what the parents said. So let's just talk about a little bit of just some of the things that, especially as adults, sometimes they have a tendency to judge young people bad what they see sometimes, or just based off of their own feelings and not talking directly with the teen to get their true thoughts and ideas. So yeah, let's have that discussion, because one of the things I've noticed is that when you talk to teens, it's the total opposite typically of what the parents think, or other adults even. Can anybody else attest to that? And we're going to bring on, we have one of our mentors here, on. We're gonna bring Mr. C on the platform. We see Jason is here. Yes. So we're gonna bring everybody on so we can have this live discussion about, let's see if we can make it, about adults versus teens. So for the teens that's on the platform, do y'all find this to be true, that a lot of times the way you feel is not necessarily how the adults feel? Any thoughts, Jason or Jerde? I think she froze. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jason? Okay, I think you may be on mute.
What was the question?
Oh, okay, there you are. Now I was asked, what are your thoughts? Do you think a lot of times that adults have a totally different view and opinion than what the teens think? And yeah, say more about that. What are your thoughts about it? What usually happens?
They think one way, do we think the other way? Like, I don't know, but yeah.
You're so cool. I love it. Mr. C, what do you think?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat the question one more time.
So I was talking about a situation to where there was a parent and they had their child in a private school. And so people were asking other parents that were coming to the school were asking about the school and how their child is enjoying it. And so the parents was given such great accolades. Oh, this is the best school ever. My son just loves it. He's doing so well. He seems to be happy with everything. But someone noticed the expression on the teen's face and went and talked to the teen. It was a total opposite.
Yeah.
Quite a way, if you will. So, because I think adults have a tendency to forget what life was like when they were young.
Yeah, and we like to overcompensate, because depending on how much we had in the choice that was made about the school, I think that might have a lot to do with it, because we would like to value our own opinion, and it would be hard. I can imagine, with my mother, I was raised by a single mother, so my father was there, but just not really present. And you just didn't say anything back to Mama Kay. And, you just kind of, that's the way it was. So I don't know if that's anybody else's experience.
Yes, that is that is my experience. My parents are Caribbean, so you just don't talk back. What they know, that's what it is, and that's the end of the matter. So I definitely relate with that. And I think I was thinking about this a bit, that I'm not even sure that it's really the parents versus the child, because I think this is also something that happens between friends, between strangers, between anybody, that sort of, we're not mind readers, right? We don't know what actually goes on in the mind, in another person's mind. So we wouldn't really know how they feel unless we talk to them. And it's just, I think friends or peers have a better understanding of how the others feel, because they talk about it more, versus with parents, sometimes that open communication is not always welcome, or the kid doesn't feel comfortable, or there are just other barriers to seeing what goes on in the child's brain. So I relate to that experience, definitely.
I'm wondering if this is due also, and then this is definitely have always existed because I remember being a teen and some of the uncomfortable conversations that I did not want to have with my parents. Um, but also now that speaking of Snapchat, right? So it's a different way of communicating, but it gives a definitely a totally different imagery as well. So, for example, on Snapchat, you can have all these filters. We can give this persona of just being super fun and maybe the most introverted person in the world, right? So, uh, can this contribute? Also, I mean, what are the pros and cons, would you say, of how teens can learn communication skills from Snapchat? Let's ask that. I'm careful about the type of question I'm asking, of course. Jade, I'm gonna look.
Like, is this question for me or other people want to answer?
We're gonna start with you since you with the company.
No, I think that's a really great question. I think, oh, I got it. Okay, so the premise of Snapchat is that a picture communicates so much more than words, right? If you want to say, just went to the coffee shop, got a bagel, and I'm on the bus right now, you got to type all that out to express yourself, right? But on Snapchat, if you just take a picture of you with your coffee and your bagel on the bus, that one picture communicated all of those words. So I think part of communication, yes, we do need to master and like grow in the way that we express ourselves through words. But I think also being expressive through body language and through just our presence with people is another way of communicating that I think could also be helpful for like parents and teens together. Yeah, and like both making a better effort um, to read the others like unspoken emotions as well. Even though it's difficult because, as I said before, you can't read minds, but like I think focusing on like the hidden clues as well is helpful.
Awesome. We have a question on the floor before the teens chime in. So this could be a good one for a discussion as well. At what age should parents get the child's opinion before making a decision? I want to hear from the teens on this and what they think.
I'll say 13, 14. I'll say 14. More of a teenager stage. Yeah. Yeah. Because honestly, for me, I'll think it will bond with the parent more if you start communicating things. But there's also a line that you have to draw. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So boundaries with that sounds like. Yeah. Jason, what are your thoughts?
I'll say 13 or 14 too.
Okay, Mr. C.
I'm gonna go with the experts. Because I consider. Let me see if I can move my little. Is his name Jason? I can't see his name on here. And
Jason.
Jason. And how do you say the other young lady's name?
Jared.
Jared A. Yeah, I'm going with them because I believe them over my own opinions right now.
And she said something that was so key is that the bond, the communication brings the bond, even if you include them in the dialogue, because they may have insight into something that you may not have even thought about, you know. And I remember just coming up certain things that took place. I may not have, some things I didn't get a say in, and then some things we had conversation all the time with my parents. So it was a bunch of us kids. So at the dining table, that was the place of communication. So we always had that opportunity to talk about things and talk things out. And then some of the things that we enjoyed doing, wanted to do, one parent may have felt one way about it, but another parent may have agreed with the child or agreed with us. So they will come together and kind of like talk about it, and they would hash it out, and then we got what we wanted sometimes. But it worked because it could be like sports or an activity that we really wanted to participate in. What are your thoughts, Jade?
I think it definitely depends on the level of maturity of the child, because similar to Mr. C, I grew up in a single parent household, and I think I had to grow up a little bit sooner than most other kids to like help manage the house and different things. So my mom would ask me stuff, I'd say pretty early, which now she looks back and she's like, look, this is what you did, and now you think you have too much control, blah, blah. Now she's complaining about it. But I think it sort of like teaches decision-making skills that are necessary for kids to then like function on their own later. So I think big decisions like later on, but even like when the child is small, like when they're 5, you can ask them like, okay, which ice cream should we buy for the family, right? So like sort of training them on the smaller things and then like bigger decisions later.
Well said. Well said. I have to agree with all of that, because I think it is important for them to learn decision-making skills. I have met some teens that struggled when it comes to even picking from a menu, seriously. And, because they traveling, we taking them out for travels and things like that. I'm not saying everybody that I've encountered, I'm just randomly putting it out there, that there are teens that struggle when it comes to making decisions. So I think it is great to include them. And even if, so I'm still on the old school thought of training the children in the way that the direction they're supposed to go in. Of course, we make sure we make the final decision of that's going to be best for the team, but including them in that dialogue and conversation, they can provide insight that we never would have thought of, and a different outlook on things. And it feed into, as Jay was saying, responsibility and decision making. Like Mr. C was saying, it just helps. So Jared A. Jason, great answers, y'all. Great answers. So we hope that helps for the parents that are asking these questions about, because nowadays a lot of children are making a lot of decisions for themselves. Some are decisions that should not be made by a child. Let me flip the pancake on that one. So when it comes to things that can hurt them down the road, or when it comes to their development, that's the parents should make those decisions. I don't think a child should make a decision when it comes to how they develop. That's just that's a child should not be a part of that, because they don't understand what's down the road. Adults understand what it's like to be a teen, but teens don't know what it's like to be an adult. So some things when it comes to adult decisions of things that can harm them down the road, that I think the adults should definitely be more vocal in that aspect. That a child can voice their thoughts and their opinions, but of course the adult should always do what's best for that child. So we have Destiny out there. She's not live though, so we see you, Destiny. We just want to acknowledge one of our teens out there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we know have some statements out here about Snapchat, about it possibly being dangerous for teens, and that it has private stories, and that's what the teen normally use. And if you as a parent can see normal story, you can see the normal story, but not the private. Not all teens, but as they were saying at the end, but some teens use the normal story, the private, that is, instead of the normal, so where the adults and parents cannot see it. Any thoughts on that, on when it comes to safety for teens with social media? And I'm gonna direct that to Jade.
Hello. I think this is a good concern. I also know that Instagram has private stories for close friends that you can choose who gets to see certain stories. But I think for me, I would say the root of the issue isn't necessarily Snapchat or Instagram or the ability to have private stories, but it's a matter of trust that is built between the child and the parent. Because I think it's, yeah, I think I'm not supporting that, oh, the child should have privacy and like not share what they don't want to share. But I think if the parent and the child form a bond of trust and of open communication, then I think it's less likely that the parent would worry what types of things the child is posting if at the end of the day the parent and the child end up having conversations about how their day was, or what things they're struggling with, or things that they would end up posting on the story. I think the need for something private can be alleviated by more communication and more trust, and the child feeling like they won't be judged by the parent if they were to let the parent know things. And I think that would remove some of the worry for private stories or stuff like that. But I do think it's a good concern. Mr. C, do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I mean, there comes a point where parents are not cool anymore. We're cool, probably right up until maybe fifth or sixth grade, and then all of a sudden, we are not the go-to, if that makes sense. And I think there has to be an awareness. I agree with you, Jade, that if a bond is formed, definitely I think there would be more communication between a parent and their child. But I don't think they would expose everything. I still think there's still some parts that they never share that they may be snapping about, right? Only what they want to disclose. And I don't think that changes even when whether you're a child or teen or young adult or anything. And so I do think there is sometimes you have to, I'm saying this, and you need to know pass codes and passwords, and I believe that there's a healthy fear that you should be able to give your child, and that says, hey, you give me access because this is my phone that you're borrowing. I had to have that conversation with my kids. They might be on the other line with, I know my daughter Michaela is with Destiny now, and I had to have a real conversation about, these are my phones. They hated that conversation. And so, yeah, I think just one, letting the parent know that it's okay to have boundaries around it and not feel guilty. And also, if, just like what you said, Jade, I think that was such a true comment. If the child is mature enough, they would know that it's about their care, and not about trying to control. Although there does need to be some type of level of boundaries.
No, you're right. I think that's good. Oh, we have a comment from one of our mentors. They were talking about setting expectations from the beginning and what the consequences will be. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I mean, because it's like it does have some pros, and of course, if it's not managed, it can have some cons to it. I know recently when I was speaking to a young man who was just sharing how the different areas of technology have been influential for him when it comes to communication skills. Being able to talk to people, especially if they're really shy, withdrawn, and introverted, that being able to communicate through social media. And now we're dealing with the virtual reality piece and being able to do gaming out with other people. So a lot of times, parents and adults, we can look at things from a perspective that these entities can be really dangerous, but not seeing some of the positive things, like how it can increase a child's communication skills when it comes to being able to express themselves, may not knowing how creative their child really is. Some of them don't even know that their child can dance, or listen to certain types of music and all of these things that they can learn from just being on social media. And so just hearing sometimes some of the young people talk about how they've developed their communication skills that way and found out about some things about themselves and being able to break out of the shyness through social media. But now how you translate that in real life, well, that's kind of like real life, but person to person is something different. But they said it helped them to communicate person to person because it helped them break through the shyness on social media. Thoughts? And feel free in our studio audience on Facebook and YouTube. Let me reset it for a little while just so you can understand some of the conversations that we're having. We're having dialogue tonight about how it's not what you think. We're saying that because sometimes parents may think their teen is one way and it's a total opposite. So they can think, oh, my child is an angel and they're not, or they can think my child is really terrible or bad and they're not. So this is part of the dialogue of tonight. And we have a great young lady on tonight who is our guest, Ms. Jade Thompson. This is her first time with us. And she knows a lot about Snapchat because she's an employee with them. So we have an opportunity at this time to pick her brain a little bit and to help us to be able to maneuver better through Snapchat for those who are entering that world for the first time. If you have any questions, to be able to get better usage out of it and to use it better. So we know that teens have a tendency to kind of do what if they want to do sometimes and not use it appropriately, but a lot of people may. So we just want to put that out there. And so we just reintroduce the conversation all over again. So let's see. We have a question here. Can parents over monitor? And what's the balance, if there is one, when it comes to monitoring social media pages and things like that? Any thoughts, Jade and Mr. C?
Jade, leaving that for Jade.
Okay, I'm thinking. I don't feel like a teen anymore. I'm 21, but still close enough. It's very difficult. I know parents care deeply about the safety of their children, so I don't think there may be over monitoring, but I want to steer away from that, like saying that there's over monitoring. I think whatever is necessary, right? I'm gonna leave it at that. But I think something that I wanted to bring up is I really like what was said about setting expectations and consequences, and specifically what is right and wrong, like setting a clear understanding for the child about what is right and wrong, and like feeding a well-rounded understanding of moral values for the child, I think changes that whole relationship. Because I just remember for myself, I think there was, like, before I became a Christian, there was just like, I'd say more of this like tension between my mom and I, and sort of after me finding Jesus, it was an understanding that like I have a different set of morals, right? So it's not my mom's morals or right and wrong and these consequences that my mom is trying to get me to follow. They've sort of become my own that I live by, apart from whether she's monitoring me or not. And I think that is something that I want to stress for everybody. Just like setting a foundation of morals and a correct understanding of right and wrong for the children, for the teen, whoever, is going to be very helpful in like monitoring in general.
I think that's good. We're getting some good feedback in the comment section as well, because I think that I think we can be overreactive. I mean, now speaking as on the parental side, the teens don't have to know we're over monitoring. You know what I'm saying? Because any amount of monitoring, I think they're going to feel like it's too much. But I think that if we are less reactive, that may help. Because I think we need to understand and know what's going on is how we react to it. So, for example, one teen, by the way, we kind of lost our teens. Their signals are like bad right now. They're apologizing back and forth. I'm like, it's okay. We just keep going. Well, like, for example, when it comes to, let me see which one I want to use. When kids are like, just, I kind of just lost my thought for a second. So I may have to come back to it. But Mr. C, what are you thinking?
You're talking about overreacting. That's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
You got it back. You got it back. You know what you're gonna say? All right.
Thank you. Had a moment, bro. Yeah. So what have a tendency to happen is, and I remember when I was a teenager, and I asked my mom a question, and okay, if she's watching this, Mom, I'm sorry. But and I remember asking her, like, Mom, how do you know when you're in love? And I mean, it went totally loud. She was like, what are you doing? And I was just kind of like, because I was just watching TV and listening to some other friends and stuff. So I was just curious. I'm like, Mom, is not what you're thinking at all. It's not like that. I'm just asking a question, And it just went totally left. So I get it why teens hate to ask their parents questions sometimes because they think the worst, So sometimes it becomes a hilarious moment. I think back on it. I'm like, Mom. She was like, well, it's just a lot going on. So sometimes we can be overreactive, because it's good to look out for. It's good to look out for the teens and just make sure, and we can have the proper dialogue. I was talking to somebody not too long ago, one of the young people, and they were just saying how they were talking about the reactions. They said, I just hate that reaction. And so I'm not comfortable with talking. And I had to agree with them because sometimes it can be really strong. They said, all they had to do was just ask me. They go to accusing. They going left. They thinking everything is happening. The world is crashing on us. So they said, I was like, oh my God, it's not that bad. It's not that serious. It's not even what you think. So this is where the whole dialogue started coming about because this was a common theme that was happening among the young people. Like, oh my God, they trip it too hard. It's not even what they think. I'm not doing anything, or I'm not even doing that. So, yeah. Have you had any of those experiences, Jade?
Sort of something similar. Really funny. So I saw this like questions to ask your mom or something. And I was asking my mom, this was a while back, I was asking her about like what was the experience like being pregnant? And then she's like, she's like, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I just want to learn about you. I want to learn about your like what happened in your life. So I can definitely relate to that. That is very funny. The reaction is a thing.
Yeah, all right, Mr. C, you got to give it up. Okay, what happened to you? What was that moment for you as a teenager and your mom just overreacted to something? And we're going to ask the audience those questions. Share a story, put in the chat something that happened where your mom or dad just totally overreacted. And even as a parent, if you look back at something that you shared with your teen came to you about something and you just totally overreacted. Come on, we want spill the guts, spill the beans.
I'm trying to think. I was a pretty good boy.
Yeah, right.
I was good. I ain't lying. I was a pretty good dude. Let's see. You know what? My mother, I can't remember the story leading up to, but my mom slapped me one day. I don't even know what it was, but a friend was over. I guess I may have talked back. Probably. Yeah, I probably did. And I was like, what is going on? So, and my hand out of, when you get slapped, my hand literally, it was just a response. I've never put my hands on my mother. So all of you that are out there, but when my hand went up, my mother went to a whole nother place because of some of her relationship, because some of her past in her relationship. It's like, oh, you want to hit me? You want to hit me? I'm like, wait, I don't even know what's going on in this store. She went back to an episode. And so I don't know. You know what? LaTanya, I was actually pretty good is when I got out of the house where I started, acting a little like I didn't have no sense. So
So your reflex caused you to about to get knocked out of the game.
my reflex, I think brought some type of memory or something. And the reaction that I saw on her face, it was something that I've never seen before. So, and it was just a reflex, let somebody let one of y'all get slapped, just see what happens. You're not gonna be like, oh, so
That's true. That's true. You're gonna need more, you're gonna need a lot of self-control on that one. We got some good information in the chat box, so we want to just kind of comment on a little bit from one of my mentors. She's definitely passionate. So she's just sharing how, we have a tendency now. We have to remember also the days that we were sneaky. So she was just saying how the teens will find a way to get around parents and adults. And so there are some things that, as long as the parents have taught them, they still have that seed planted on the inside of them, even when they try to do the most, so we have to remember that. And it's always better to be safe than sorry. So, just as parents and as adults, it still doesn't hurt to just keep monitoring what's going on. Because nowadays there's so much out there and things that are happening that we just want to make sure that kids are protected and that they're not sharing too much too. Because they can reveal their location. They can reveal so many other things. So we just want to make sure that they are safe. And so if any other parents out there have any other questions, please feel free to ask. We don't want to exclude you. So we just want to make sure that you're welcome to ask any questions. So tonight we're talking about it's not what you think. So it's dealing with especially how parents have a tendency to overreact or to think one thing about their child and it's the total opposite. So we have a team, in our background. Some of them are camera shy, don't want to be on the stage. So they're listening to us at this point. And then some have some technical difficulty tonight, but we welcome your feedback and questions.
LaTanya, I have a question.
Yes.
It's more for Jade. So I have a 18-year-old who just graduated. I have a 28-year-old, right? And I also have a young lady that's getting ready to be a junior. So here's my question. But my younger children, they believe that, everybody already knows everything anyway. So, nothing's a secret. And I'm not talking about so much social security numbers and things like that, but just the fact that you're there, people know you're there. How important is it with regards to locations, because doesn't Snapchat have a location feature? So wherever you are, if this is on, help me to understand how they can be more safe, or is this, or is that real dangerous or what?
I wasn't expecting this question. Okay. I think it is a tricky one. I'm not entirely sure. I think you can probably turn it off if you're not comfortable with it. People have the option of turning it off, but I think because Snapchat is also it's meant for close friends, right? People on average on Snapchat talk to their 12 closest friends. So who you add, it's not like Facebook or Instagram where like anybody can see your profile. It's really private. I would say that it's more so private and personal for your close friend groups. So on Snapchat, when I have the map, I can see that my friend, she actually, I didn't know this before, but she lives like maybe 20 minutes away from me. Like I just moved to North Carolina and I'm like, oh my gosh, you live here too. So I saw that on the map. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in my area. Let's meet up, that kind of thing. So I think that should be maybe something that is more assuring or easing to you. It's that who's on your Snapchat and who sees your Snapchat are the people your child gives access to. And I think since Snapchat is not more of a platform based on likes, right? So like on Instagram, you like add everybody so that they can like your stuff, but like Snapchat is more about communication. So I personally don't add anyone that I know I'm not going to communicate with on the regular, and I think that's mostly, for the most part, how other people like choose who to add.
That's good to know.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because I think, is Snapchat Asian based?
Say it again.
Is it Asian based, like the parent company in Asia?
Oh no, they're based in California.
California. Okay, one of the social media platforms is, and I can't remember which one it is.
TikTok.
That's right, TikTok. See, I'm having a moment tonight, but I can't remember which one it was. But that's good information to know, because it's structured a little differently, as you're saying, from Instagram, Facebook, and some of the other platforms, to where it is more private. And of course, if you're in that circle, you're going to see a little bit more than everyone else. And that's kind of good. That's kind of good. I want to say hi to Kayla real quick, just a sidebar. Hey, Kayla. We don't want to ignore you there. So good to see you tonight. But yeah, so that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. So for the parents out there who are concerned about Snapchat features, there are some safety parameters there. But the parent, just making sure your child is wise enough to know who to put in their circle too, and no one new that they don't know. So we want to be mindful of that. So with that being said, anyone else have any questions or thoughts you want to share tonight? And again, we're talking about it's not what you think. So sometimes how parents have a tendency, or even adults have a tendency to just overreact. Now, back in the day, adults always overreact. It was just never a moment where they didn't. If you're going to the store somewhere and you're by yourself, where you going? What you think you're doing? Or it was just always somebody's overreacting, typically. And I think so now we're going to switch, because a lot of adults, because we need to be careful in how we engage young people so they do not feel uncomfortable when it comes to coming to us if they need to talk to us. They may want and have a desire to come talk to us, and they don't because of the overreaction that takes place. So that's just food for thought and something to keep in mind as well. So I'm grateful for one of our team members. Thank God for the Holy Ghost, because he will reveal, he'll reveal things, So yeah, any closing remarks on tonight? And for our audience out there, if you have any comments or questions, we're going to be preparing to close. So it's a good time to share it if you have any thoughts. So any closing remarks, Mr. C. Jade?
Just reiterating what you said, LaTanya. Jay, thank you so much for that enlightenment, because I am one of those overreactors at times. I'll probably more times than I should. And then my face alone, sometimes it may not even be in the words that I say that expresses overreaction. My facial expressions also, I've heard, why are you looking like that? Why are you so intense? And so I think for me, I have to, excuse me for the noise in the background, I have to regulate my face, not just my words.
That's good. We have a based off what you said, it's interesting because is the question from a parent: what are good techniques for having kids communicate openly with adults or the parents? So what are some good techniques for having kids communicating openly? Any thoughts, Jade? And then Mr. C, then I'll chime in. So while y'all thinking about it, I'll share one thing that was told to me is that they appreciate being, first of all, I always say everybody should respect one another, right? Adults, the kids not telling you what to do, but respect their thoughts and opinions, and so they can feel like a valued human being. There are going to be moments where, of course, they can work your nerves or whatever, but at the end of the day, they still have feelings. And sometimes I've heard parents say, "You don't have any feelings yet." It's like, oh, wow, they do. They really do. Like, you haven't been through life enough. They are going through life at their stage of life, though. And so being able to talk to them, ask questions as if we're talking to a friend. I mean, you're their parent, but the way that things are communicated, because everybody have feelings, So instead of saying, coming from an accusatory perspective, just ask them if they know about this, that, and the third. So instead of saying, "Oh, what would you do? I saw you over there. You should have been doing that," and it may have been totally false. It's just based off of appearance. But instead of just asking, "Oh, so I heard that there was a party. Did you enjoy the party?" So I have some nieces and nephews. So so I can look at certain features and tell what they're doing. And so it's just, so instead of accusing them of saying, "You shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that," I came around it from a different way, because I want to educate them on the harm that different things can have. Because these kids nowadays smoking weed, they taking drinks, they're doing a lot of things. So I approach it from an angle like, "Oh, so how often do you smoke?" They were like, "What?" Well, I said, "I was a teenager. I could tell. I see the difference. Your lips turning black for one, but they were floored and they opened up, So, and they openly just started talking about it. So it's the approach from knowing that it's like, I understand where you are, and it may have, and sometimes it's a coping mechanism that it's a bad habit that they learn and pick up from others. So just being able to engage in dialogue from that angle, like, okay, I was a teenager too, or I was a young adult too. And so come from that angle versus, "Oh, what you doing? You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be." They know they shouldn't be doing it already. So the thing is, you want to know why and help guide them and direct them in a better path. And what do y'all think?
Yeah, I think, and I'm gonna try to be quick. I think levels of self-disclosure and vulnerability, and so allowing myself to show my own weaknesses and my own failures, to invite versus show how right I am, because that doesn't invite, that creates resistance, and it pushes away when I'm trying to be tough and feel like I know everything, because honestly, I know very little about what the youth in this day and time go through. So I think, sorry again for the noise, just disclosing and making yourself vulnerable and showing them that your own failures and how you got through it, I think invites in. Jade and I actually did a little bit of that when we related single mom, and then I was like, my single mom, and she wasn't. And then Jade came in and was like, "Yeah, I can relate," and that was just a small self-disclosure that invited the communication. So.
What are your thoughts, Jade?
That's a great point. You guys, you don't even need to ask these questions. You already know. But I'd say the biggest thing is listening, not to respond, but to help the other person feel heard. And I think that's a big thing. Like, no one actually wants to be corrected, right? But like a child being able to say, "Oh, hey, mom," or "Hey, dad, this is what you did that hurt my feelings," and it not being a defensive reaction, but listening and validating feelings and who they are is, I think, something that we all look for, not just children, but adults as well. And I think another big thing would be, as some, I think, Latanya, you mentioned it, of not coming with an accusatory tone and sort of like, this is what you need to do instead to be better, right? But like, or like, this is what you're doing wrong, but affirming their identity and just encouraging them to live up to that, if that makes sense. So like, rather than oh, you cheated on your test, that was so wrong, why did you do that? It's, oh, like, you are a person who has integrity, you are a person who works hard and earns, what the grade that you get. So it's sort of like framing things in a more positive light, like builds the child up more. And then the last thing is just like, as Mr. C said, like vulnerability, for yourself, but also being vulnerable and like sharing your actual intentions, right? Like, why do you even care about this, right? You care because you're their parent, because you want the best for them, etc. So sharing the heart behind the monitoring, sharing the heart behind the overreaction sometimes, I think that helps them see like who you are beneath this maybe like authoritative or like punitive standpoint, more as a person who genuinely cares for them. And I think every kid wants that. Like, we may not, as teens, we may not like recognize it then, but like looking back later and being like, oh, I had a parent who cared about what I did, right? Who wanted to steer me in the right direction, is something that we'll learn to value later on.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jade. Anyone else have any other questions or last comments before we close? All right, no more questions? Well, we just want to thank everyone for chiming in tonight and participating in our GP Teen Talk tonight. And our guest tonight was Jade Thompson. So we applaud you. Thank you for being so brave and hanging with us tonight, because you took some questions that were unexpected. So while she introduced herself working with the Snapchat, that was all over every, teens had questions. So it was great. It was great. It was really great. So thank you so much. We got to have you back. I'm pretty sure Jared is going to say the same thing. Like, yeah, we got to have her back. They're having some signal challenges. So a couple of our teens had to drop off tonight, and a lot of people are traveling. So we just want to say thank you to our parents and those that are watching on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for joining us tonight. So we'll be back again once a month. So we'll be back July 11th at 5 o'clock. And of course, as school get prepared for school, we'll, change the time accordingly. But we are preparing for our back to school jam, which will be on the fourth Sunday of July, July 25th. We'll be partnering with Trinity Temple. So we're asking for those who have school supplies to donate. Please do so. You can go to our website, generationprodigy.org, and make a donation, or you can buy some school supplies and drop them off at Trinity Temple in Grandview, Missouri. For those that are in Missouri, come to Trinity Temple and drop off school supplies, and we'll make sure we get them. And that's 11922 Food Lane in Grandview, Missouri, 64030, even if you want to mail them there. So again, that's at Trinity Temple, 11922 Food Lane. So feel free to come by on a Sunday or Wednesday night and just drop off school supplies there. We'll be so grateful, and the kids will be happy to receive them as well. So we're looking for book packs, backpacks, pens, pencils, paper, scientific calculators, you name it. School supplies are needed. So thank you for your support. And we'll have a campaign that's going on. So we hope that everybody is able to participate and bring the teens out, especially if they need school supplies. And so if you're a principal or a teacher, bring your students, or let the students know that we'll be right there. That's on June 25th at 12:30 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you there. So with all hearts and minds are clear, any last minute thoughts?
I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Stevens and Jared A, for having me. Thank you, Mr. C, for your contributions. It's been a real pleasure being here.
Thank you, Mr. C. You're on mute.
Yeah, my mouse had to wake up. So I too want to thank you, Dr. Stevens, for the invitation. Jade, it was a pleasure. You educated me and made me a little bit more comfortable with some things. I had to look in the mirror at my overreaction. I'll work on that in my private time. And so, yeah, this was great. Thank you.
That's awesome. Confession is good for the soul, right? So thank you all once again for GP Teen Talk. We'll be back with your host. She usually closes us out, Miss Jerry Day. She'll be back next month, and we have our co-host who will be back as well, Nyla. So everybody enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe. Stay away from the loud firecrackers that can burn your hands. We don't want to see any fingers popped off for this during the holiday season. So please be safe, be responsible, and until next time, we are so glad that you were able to be with us on tonight. So goodbye for now. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.